Hi, I'm Daniel Lefebvre and welcome to Ruby on Rails. Today we're going to talk about adding cascading style sheets to your Rails projects. We're going to do this by creating a guest book using a Rails scaffold and then adding cascading style sheets to that. Before we begin, you'll need to make sure that you have a fully functional version of Ruby and Rails, text editor, and file privileges on the files that we'll be creating and editing. You may also want to download the Cascading Style Sheets files included with this video. Okay, let's begin. If you haven't already, let's move into our Ruby folder. Mine's called Ruby Projects. From within that folder, I'm going to create a new Rails project. I'm going to call this Guest Book 2. And we'll just wait for Rails to do its magic. Now that Rails has done its magic, we're going to cd into that directory. And inside there, we're going to create our scaffold. Remember, when you're creating a scaffold, you want it to be use a single class, Remember, when creating a scaffold, don't use a plural word or Rails will convert it back to a singular for you. Okay, so message, we're going to name our first field name with a string, and then message, which is also going to be a string. We'll let Rails do its magic. To get the database set up, we'll type rake db update. Actually, we'll type rake db migrate. Hopefully we'll get a better effect this time. There we go. Then to make the rest of our scaffold, we'll simply type rake, hit return. And we're ready to start our server and begin editing our code. Okay, let's load our web browser and make sure everything's working correctly. If you load 127.0.1.3000/messages, you should get our guest book. We'll add a new message so we have something in there. There's our message. There's our message listing. And now that we've seen that it's all working, let's go ahead and start editing. The first file that we want to edit will be our index.html.erb file, which we'll find inside our app directory in our guest book 2 folder. Then we'll go inside our views folder and messages, and there it is, index.html.erb. First thing I want to do to this is change this from list messages to, say, guest book. Fairly simple. Then we're going to go in here and we're going to delete these two rows that have edit and destroy, because we don't want those showing up on our fully stylized version, which means we also have to delete these 3 table headers up here at the top. Okay. Okay, with our extra rows removed, we're going to add IDs to our 2 table header rows. We'll call our first one guest names. And our second table header we'll call guest messages. The next thing we're going to do is our first Ruby on Rails trick. We're going to use a method called cycle. And what cycle will do is it will actually keep track of passes through of this message each do that was created for us. This message each do is actually going to output all of our messages for us. First our name, and then our message name, and then our message. What we're going to use is this method called cycle, which will allow us to give a different background color to each row as it oscillates through the message printing. In other words, we're creating zebra striping on our table. I'm going to use the shortcut here. It's a little quicker than counting. Then I'm just going to use nice light green EFE. And of course, we need to wrap this into our Ruby tags so that the compiler knows that we're running a Ruby command. Okay, and now let's save this file. And I think that's all we're going to do to the index file for now. Let's go ahead and take a look at our CSS file. Okay, so the next thing we need to open up will be in our app folder under Assets, Style Sheets. And you may notice that in your Ruby on Rails projects, your CSS files may have a further extension, SCSS. And that means that it's a SAS file. Now, SAS files are completely compatible with CSS3. So you could use the exact same syntax that you're used to using, but you also have the advantage of being able to use SAS. Now, Ruby on Rails includes this nice little link for you right at the top of the SAS file, so you can go find out more information about that. For today, we're just going to add some regular old CSS with standard formatting, and we'll use that to make our guestbook have a slightly better appearance. Since this isn't a lesson on style sheets, I'm just going to copy and paste my styles in here, and we'll talk about them really briefly. Okay, let's quickly add a div to encapsulate our table. This way we can make the table slightly more attractive. So that's short for message table container. We'll come in here, we'll close it. And I noticed that a minute ago that I had not completed the code here to make our cycling work for our zebra striping. So what this code is actually doing is each time through the loop, it's going to pass either FFF for white or EFF for the light green as the style background for our table. And that's how our zebra striping is going to work. Okay, let's come in here and take a look. Oops, we should make sure we have everything saved first. Okay, so here is our guestbook with our zebra striping. And just a couple more things left to do. Okay, we're going to paste in a little more code here. We're almost done. And this code is going to help us format the presentation of our messages. So we'll paste that in, we'll save it, and now we're going to come in to our files and we're going to modify our show HTML ERB. We're going to remove our edit link because we don't want that on our live site. And we're going to add a class here called Bubble. Okay, let's remove our edit link because we won't want to be able to edit on our live site. We're quickly going to add IDs. To both of our fields. Okay. And then to our guest message, we're also going to add the class Bubble. Save this. Let's go back and take a look at our guest book. We can click show, and you can see now we have our name, our message in this nice little bubble, and our attractive guest book with zebra striping. Hope you learned a lot. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you.